Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Meltdown Abroad. As you know, for our summer format, we're putting the questions in your hands, so you get to ask us some of your parenting meltdowns.
All right, let's hear about the next one. So we have a question from a parent who is moving across the country and definitely feeling overwhelmed. She says, we're having to make an urgent move across the country with a preschooler and a kindergartner, and I don't know where to start. We're moving for my husband's new job, but due to financial strains, I will need to look for a new job. It's all overwhelming. I don't know what to prioritize. Do I look for a home or neighborhood first, the children's school? Should I first find myself a job? FYI, we will be moving 3 months into the school year. Heart's going out to this mom, but that's a lot of changes to manage. And I think we can help with some questions we would ask and some strategies that might help, right?
Yeah, so it sounds like even though it's going to be probably like November, 3 months into the school year, it sounds like it's all very sudden. So I'm wondering if she's also having to like quit her job and then look for a new one, or if she's already even like quit her job. It just sounds like you're very overwhelmed, and my heart does go out to you for this one.
I mean, there's one constant here that is if your husband has a new job, and obviously it sounds like you will need to look for a new one as well. But if your husband has a new job, then you at least have a focal area of where that's located, right? And that can begin your process of looking at schools and areas where you would want to be. So that's kind of the first piece, because I know I'm not sure if this is in the US or abroad, but typically, at least in America, your school options will be based on your address. So if you're looking at even just starting a search of this is where my husband's job will be, and so let's look at what are the school districts, within that area that might be possibilities, right?
So I think you're saying she should look for the school first?
Well, so what I would do in this situation is that if you already know the husband's job, then you have an area where you have to be within a certain area anyway, because you have only a reasonable amount of commute time that's possible, right? So within that, you're looking at neighborhoods that have good schools.
Yeah,
right?
I would do that. Look for the neighborhoods that might have some. Well,
school
what do you do first? Do you look for the school first, or do you look for the neighborhood first?
So in this scenario, I would use AI for this. I would say, my husband's job is located in this place. I would like to have a list of towns within a price range. So obviously everybody has a budget, right? You know it, at least in part what yours is here based on his job. So if we have a budget, we've got a job, we have a general area. So within that area, I would ask AI, what are the towns, family-friendly towns within, let's say an hour commute of this area for the job that also have well-rated schools. And it will give you a list, and that's where you can begin researching.
Thank God for AI, because I was definitely going to send you to some parenting platform or Reddit, and you have to dissect and find all these individual things yourself.
It's good for organizing these types of things. You need to look back through everything and make sure, because your parameters for what a great town or a great school will be different than somebody else's, but it will begin the list for you, so you're not starting from scratch. So you can look at it and say, okay, here are 10 options. Now I'm just looking at what each one looks like a little bit more. Maybe I narrow down a little bit more, saying my husband doesn't want an hour commute, or maybe he's fine with an hour and a half. We don't know, but all of those things change life, how late they come home, what they're able to help with. And so, that at least gives us a starting point. And it's essentially to this question of what do I prioritize first? Neighborhood and school go hand in hand, because you can't, if you have a fabulous school, but it takes you an hour and a half to get there every day, it's not going to be fabulous for your child, because they will be really exhausted in the morning and really exhausted in the afternoon. And it really limits the rest of the things that you all can do as a family.
I agree. I definitely agree that the neighborhood / school should go hand in hand, because one, you're creating home. So the neighborhood is going to matter. So you do want to kind of prioritize that. Yeah. And if they go hand in hand, that kind of lessens your plate a little bit. The idea of AI really chunks the tasks that you have to do, because it's doing it all answering all the questions if you give it the right prompts.
Yeah.
That's half the work done. And then I would lean into enjoying the experience a little bit of like exploring what the different neighborhoods look like, getting the kids involved so that it doesn't just feel like stress. Because I think, what are we in, June or July, August, September, October, November? There's like 6 months.
There's some time here actually to, I know that sometimes these things come up and it feels so intense because you look at a million things that you need to do that are ahead of you, but there is time.
Yeah.
There is time to do all these things. And honestly, and then once you find the neighborhood and some school options within that neighborhood, everything starts coming into place.
Mm-hmm.
And also then it makes it possible for someone else to do a job search, because you can't search for a job that's nowhere near where you need to be, particularly at preschool and kindergarten. They're out of school quite early, so in some countries there's more after school care than other ones, but if you're in America there's very little, so picking them up would be quite early. So the job needs to be nearby or hybrid or remote, or so we can't really do the job first because we need to know where we're going to be before we can do that search, right?
Yeah. I mean, this question changes the format of how we answer the questions anyway, so we can just jump into we're already in the strategies here. Yeah. I would say what you're feeling right now, it's called overwhelm and probably a little bit of burnout. And so it feels impossible right now because you're under a lot of stress. And so what I would lead right directly into is breaking each of these tasks down so that it feels more manageable and it doesn't feel as overwhelming. Yeah. So let's use a calendar and maybe you decide for 1 month you'll plan, because you're about 6 months out. So you really do have time. I know it feels like an emergency right now, and especially the job part, if you're under financial strain and thinking about potentially not working for a big gap, that's a little bit out of your control right now. So let's not put the focus on that. Let's think about the things that we're in control of now. Mm-hmm. We can find the neighborhood. We can probably find the home. And if you're currently working right now, you're working and saving money for the expected outcome in the near future.
And I'm not sure where you are and if you're close to any family or any good friends, but since you haven't moved yet, you might have a little bit of a village. And if there is someone that can come over and play with your 2 kids while you spend a little time on the computer, doing a little bit of research, giving yourself a minute to kind of look through these things, maybe also go on a walk so you could just sort of think through things without, these ages are loud and boisterous and busy and intense in lots of ways, and you may need to give yourself a little bit of time to think through some of these things, to research a little bit, where you're not feeling like you're, a ping pong ball going between things that they might need and answering some of these questions for you and your family.
Yeah. Make weekly tasks or monthly tasks, because you want to have rest in between. So don't be trying to chip away at this every single day. Continue with some of your regular routines because you are still here now. And like Tara said, you can utilize your village right now to help you. If the task itself feels overwhelming and there's someone else who can manage the search or knows how to use AI better, maybe you can ask them to send you some AI responses, and then you take it on from there, and then you just get to look at the neighborhoods. But see if you can delegate and really use your village while they're still here. Yeah. And then break it down. I think that's the best thing you can do for yourself right now, is just take chunks at a time and pick away at it and not think of the big picture just yet.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And not everything has to be solved. Sometimes we have these huge lists and we want to find doctors and we need to find all these different things, but we actually don't need all of those things at first. We need a place to live. We need to know where they can go to school. And we need to kind of narrow down that area. And then we're kind of helping everyone to take a look at that area and have some familiarity with it at home, emotionally, right? And then some of these other logistical pieces later, we can find doctors and find some of those other things that we need to have as we're creating a life in our new place.
And if the financial strain is also feeling overwhelming, another way you can break down your task as well is figuring out what can be sent. Like, start making a checklist of things in your home that you can potentially either sell or we'll get to go with you, or even the clothing, and you can do garage sale with the kids and just start like finding little pockets of ways to save some money or can create money for this for this move, so that that piece also doesn't feel as scary.
Yeah, sometimes the amount of things that we have can also make the move feel a little bit more daunting. And so paring down that can also be helpful just from the standpoint of feeling like there's less to manage and do and move, right?
Yeah. I mean, the kids are quite young. The preschooler, I don't know if there'll be a preschooler when they get there. Maybe. But
sometimes that's 2 years. I'm not sure if they're in their last year of preschool or their first one, but they're so little. Here's the great news with moving with kids this age, and I can tell you this because I've moved with kids this age. You are their community. And yes, there might be some sadness about leaving their schools or some anxiety around starting a new school, but their life is so ingrained with you and how you're doing and where you are. And so, really, they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine with the transition, and it will help them enormously the more fine you are. Yeah. And so one of the things that this strikes in me as just looking at the situation is also just making sure that you're giving yourself some time and space to look at these things. I know that there's some urgency here, but there's also some time here, and making sure that you're getting some support from friends and from your village while you're still in the home that you have known, because they'll do okay. They're very much centered around you at these ages.
Yeah. And just to reiterate, you have time. I think you're already doing a good job by thinking about this now and putting plans in place and asking for help and support. But I think don't beat yourself up right now. You're really in the early stages, and you've got this, and you'll be able to bring this all together and make it work for you and make it work for the family. Yeah.
We'll be wishing you all the best in this move. That I know it's tricky to do. But little bit by bit, you get there, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And as usual, we are a community. So if you have gone through any of these experiences, if you've had to have a sudden move with your family.
And many of you, we know this audience, many of you have moved a lot of times. So please do chime in on this, right?
Yeah, please give some tips, some strategies that work for you. How were you able to manage all the tasks, especially if you were a parent that also had to think about getting work in the future? Like, how did you manage all of those steps? Please, we want to hear about it. And if you know any families that can benefit from this episode, please also just share this with them so that they can learn and so that we can all support each other. But guys, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.
I'll see you soon.
Bye.